With the release of Stadium, there are so many fun builds to try out, but one little guy is getting neglected by the community, even though he's really, really good, we swear, even though he's the least played hero. As a biased Lucio main, I could comfortably say that Lucio is the most fun Stadium hero in the game, but is he the best? Yeah, he's the best, clearly. But people have been saying the Healbot Lucio is the best, but deep down we all know that Lucio isn't really a healer. He's a DPS with the self-healing so you could DPS longer. Healing sucks and killing people by wasting your beat is way more cool and fun. So I, humble bean, Lucio main connoisseur, I've carefully concocted 8-ish builds that you need to try and that I've been using, and I literally can't stop winning, and I don't know why, because some of these builds aren't even that good. And don't you worry, y'all. Some of them do involve healing, so you're not allowed to get mad at me. I'll go over the concepts for these builds and the best abilities and powers for each, but do remember it's more fun to come up with your own little tweaks and specifics for these builds. So in no particular order, here we go. Build number 1, Freight Train Lucio. A freight train chugs along and doesn't stop for nobody. This build is all about going fast and hitting people hard like a train and not making any stops. This is the perfect build for those of y'all who are professional at doing your little rollouts or wall riding in general. It revolves around 2 things, weapon power and the power fast forward. While above 50% move speed, increased damage by 25%. And you might be thinking, if this is built around speed, why isn't it called the Bullet Train Lucio or Express Train? Aren't those faster and also don't make any stops? Well, hitting people as a freight train is cooler, and look how hard you could hit people with this. So let's go over the best perks and abilities for this build. What we're going to do here is obviously, while above 50% move speed, increased damage by 25%. This build revolves completely around that. Along with that, it is very nice having this one. Signature shift. After using an ability, your next sonic amplifier shot shoots a volley of 6 ammo with 80% increased projectile size. This is going to help you do damage faster and kind of just assassinate people as you do a little drive-by. So I would definitely get this one second. And then on top of that, to maintain your speed, you could get 15%, amp it up duration. It's not really important because it's just for yourself. You know, you don't want to bother with anything healing or anything like that. Obviously, you could get another boop to kind of maximize how many big shots you could get with the signature shift, or you could go for this wall riding one where you get more health. So that way, when you do your little drive by, you're not just gonna get blown up instantly. You'll get blown up in like a few seconds. So now in terms of weapon, ability, and survival, you know, we're really, so, you know, at the start, you could get something like first aid kit where you get 25 shield, reduce the time before your life begins regenerating by 33%. You know, I really like that one because, you know, you don't have to hide out of combat for as long for your health to regenerate. But really, you know, everything else is going to be in weapon power, and pretty quick I'm going to be selling this to go into more weapon power or attack speed to kind of like get off another burst while you're doing your little drive-by. But you know, weapon power, 10% crit damage, critical hits, reveal target for 3 seconds. I like definitely this one's probably the best for doing damage fast. 25% weapon power, and deal 10% increased damage to enemies below 30%. And then next up, a good one is 20% attack speed, plus when you use an ability, gain 20% move speed for 2 seconds. So that's a good one. So anything that increases attack speed, or weapon power is what you're going to want to build. You don't got to get too specific with this. If you're struggling to maintain your momentum, then a good one to get is after wall riding, gain additional jump while airborne. Okay, so to get not maximum speed, so you could see that damage boost when you're moving fast, and you really just have to touch 2 walls, which is pretty nice. So 1, 2, and now you see you have the speed boost. And then either bunny hopping or using that additional jump helps you maintain that speed, but or just a simple amp it up gets it going. But yeah, that extra damage is like actually huge, so you definitely want that. And you know what you're going to be doing is just, you literally kind of just go in a straight line. And look at my top tier rollouts, you know, not very good, but yeah, you just go in a straight line like a fucking train, and you just hit people hard and they die really quick, and it's kind of insane. But you will probably die a lot doing this, and you'll probably get less than 100 healing every round. So, you know, if you care about your team or don't want your team to be toxic to you, maybe don't do this build, but you got to at least try it once because it's super fun. Next up, we got build number 2, Tank Lucio. As you saw in the thumbnail, you could get Lucio's health up to 760, which is pretty insane for a support, especially a support with high self-healing and mobility. Do you love playing tank but would rather wait 20 minutes queuing for support? Then Tank Lucio is the perfect build for you. Just kidding. I think Tank Lucio is actually pretty good and pretty fun. He's the perfect way to Reddit Lucio with the training wheels of 700 health. Or alternatively, he's a way to get the feeling of having 2 tanks just like the good old days. I think Lucio is probably one of the best, if not the best, non-tank hero to spec into becoming a tank. And a lot of that tank is all about taking all the bullets and making space. And Lucio already takes a ton of bullets to kill because you're missing 90% of your shots. But more importantly, one of his powers plays perfectly into how the survival perks work. Wall vibing. While wall riding, gain overhealth equal to 3% of your life every 1 second, up to 30% max life. So the more health you have, the more extra additional max overhealth you could have, and the more overhealth you gain per second. So now not only is that strong by itself when you have a lot of health, the other part that is kind of crazy about the overhealth is that it blends really well with the survival perks because, as the name suggests, overhealth goes over the rest of your health. And some of these perks require you to have armor or shields to get this bonus mitigation. So this overhealth kind of makes it so you have to burst through that overhealth and then through the armor, and then you finally get to the shields. And then really you don't have much health in this build. And you could get pretty strong mid game with this build. And if later on, you know, your DPS can't kill anything, you could kind of transition the build into a more damage focus. But mid game, pretty quick, you could become like a really hard to kill target. So in terms of powers that you want, the most important one is this wall riding or airborne, gain temporary overhealth. But on top of that, basically anything that's going to help you stay alive longer. So you could either do this amp it up thing, triggers overhealth. Amp it up duration means you are, you know, self-healing for longer. Or you could do the crossfade one, which could self-heal a little bit. Or, you know, outside of that, you could really do whatever you want, whatever kind of play style you want to lean into with this build. In terms of survival, I really like this perk. Reduce the time your life begins regenerating by 33%. I've said it in the previous build, so that's like an early one to get. And then also on top of that, like kind of the mid-game ones, you want to turn your health into shields, you want to turn your health into armor, and then, you know, look at that already. It's looking pretty great. Now this is the bread and butter of this build right here is while you have armor, take 10% reduced weapon damage. That's huge. And while you have shields, take 15% reduced ability damage. Armor already has like a mitigation effect, which is good by itself for kind of like shotgun heroes and kind of low instances of damage like Soldier 76. I think Cassidy and like heroes like Ashe and stuff, they aren't as, you know, armor's not as good against them. But regardless, you're getting the 10% less reduced weapon damage, which is huge, I think. And then, you know, you put the overhealth on top of it. Literally, if you're just jumping and stuff, you're getting overhealth. You know, before each fight, before you go in, if you wanted to Reddit Lucio, you know, here's already like a mid-game build with 436 health, and you're gaining a decent amount of health per second as long as you're jumping around and airborne and wall riding. But you could get the health up pretty crazily here. So, you know, we could drop this one and, you know, get this, and now all of a sudden we're up to 520. And then you start transitioning to like, I mean, it's not even 520. It goes higher with more overhealth. So what's this? 556. Next you could go even further into this by, you know, selling these. And going kind of like this one where you have your ult, you get 50 extra health, shields, you have 150 shields, 50 health, 50 armor. When you take damage, gain 0.5 damage reduction for 1 second. Again, this is really good for kind of short, little, small instances of damage. And then, you know, with this, we'll probably get up to around 700 health with the overhealth. Let's see, 680. And then if you like end game, if you are still speccing just into survival, You could drop these and go like something that gives, I mean, I think this is kind of cool. Melee damage grants 10% move speed and restores 5% life over 2 seconds. Because you have so much life, it does kind of heal a lot. And that's on top of, as you're jumping around, you're gaining 3% max life per second. And then when you take more than 100 damage at once, restore 15% of damage taken and start regenerating your shields, which is pretty good for higher instances of damage like Cassidy and Ashe. Okay, so now we're up to 760 damage, but basically the way you want to spec these builds, as I was kind of saying, is you want to do an armor build if they have shotguns and like soldier and May and stuff like that. And then you want to do a shield build if they have like higher damage, like Ryan, Cassidy, Ashe. And it's pretty cool because they work pretty well into each other. But yeah, that's Tank Lucio. He could get pretty crazy, 760 health. You might even be able to get a little higher if you get a little funky with the perks. But yeah, he gets pretty crazy, let me tell you. Now let's go to build number 3, Melee Lucio. Now that we've made every off tank obsolete with Tank Lucio build, what if I told you we could put Doomfist and Reinhardt to shame with this melee build? If I told you that, I'd be a big fat liar, but I'd never forgive myself if I didn't try to make this melee build. Is it a horrible build? No. I mean, yeah, but did I win every game I use this build? Also, somehow, yes. Lucio does have some Lucio specific perks that help him create this build, but I don't think it's time to put the sonic amplifier away just yet. I did usually shoot people while using this build, but I threw a lot more punches than I would usually. So your punches are going to hit a little bit harder and they're going to heal you too, which is pretty nice. So let's go into this build. So now the powers for this build they're not great, I would say. You know, one of them that I liked was this 50%. So you could either go into more health and like survivability, or you could go into more damage. So the way you would do more damage is this 50% move speed, increase damage by 25%, plus you kind of spec into amp it up duration. So when you're amping up speed, you're doing more melee damage, but the melee specific perks, it's going to be this one. Melee damage grants 10% move speed and restores 5% of your max life over 2 seconds, which is pretty good. And then under weapon, you have 50 health, 25% melee damage. After using Soundwave, your next quick melee grants decaying overhealth equal to 200% of damage dealt. So that also means the more melee damage you're doing, the more overhealth you're going to be getting. But as you'll see here, I don't think it's very good, and I'm kind of surprised. And then finally, this survival perk, it damage heals for 25 life for every melee you do. So you do get pretty tanky with this, honestly. And then other than that, you are going to want attack speed because it does make you melee faster. But let me show you this. So this is the overhealth you get. I feel like it decays really fast is the only thing. So if you're like about to take damage and you melee against like an Ashe or something and they shoot you, it will block like all of the damage, but I don't know, it just goes away so quick. And that's only after you use a boop. So if you want more of that, you could also get the power for gain 1 extra charge of Soundwave. Maybe I'm kind of sleeping on this build. Maybe it's really good. So, try it out. See how you like it. See if it's good and I'm just stupid. It's a cool concept for a build at the very least. Next up, we have build number 4, BigBulletLucio build, or the BBL build. Are you almost really good at hitting people with your bullets? Would your bullets being 80% larger and 50% faster help you out? No, probably not. It's still not big enough to hit people. I'd prefer if I was shooting big Symmetra balls, and maybe I'd be getting some kills. Maybe you'll have better luck with this, but let me show you this build. So now this build you have a few different routes you could go with this. So first of all, you're gonna need this one. Let me show you this. It's not like that crazy projectile size. It's 80% larger, but like I'm still missing. I mean, I'm pretty far away, but like that is hitting it without it, right? And I move just a tad to the right and I'm still missing with these giant projectiles. Like, there. So now I'm going to boop and I'm going to shoot. It's like, okay, yeah. It sounds like a crazy buff, but it's really not. But like, where it comes in is the you're shooting 6 bullets instead of 4, which is 50% more over the same like time, I think. So that's why I said it's like 50% faster. But with this build, you could do a couple things. One of them is you get like the extra sound wave, and with these sound waves, you might as well heal your team while they're nearby. So you're basically, and then you kind of go into like weapon cooldown and weapon power. Sorry, you go into ability cooldown and weapon power. With more like ability cooldown, you could boop more, and then, you know, as like a side effect, you're also healing your team more. So it, you know, it's pretty cool. But alternatively, you could go into a speed build, okay? So while above 50% move speed, increase damage by 25%. Now you're like, okay, why am I doing this? Well, as you amp it up, so this is pretty cool. We'll get to this in the heal build, but as you're amping it up, so okay, I'm gonna boop. You see how much it heals? Not a ton, okay? But if I'm amping heals or speed, let me get that. It does do a lot more healing. So even if you're amping speed, to get this bonus damage, you also are healing your team more every time you boop. So it's not like a bad build. You're just going to be booping to heal your team, and then, you know, kind of just spamming bullets. And whenever you can, you're amping speed, getting that 25% extra damage, which is pretty huge. Now, along with this, here's another weird thing that I don't quite understand. Let me find this perk. Okay, here we go. After wall riding, gain 30% move speed for 2 seconds. Okay, this has a weird interaction that I don't understand really. Okay, you could see the damage boost. I just jumped and it's giving me the damage boost. Like, I don't understand this. You touch a wall, when you land, you get that damage boost. I don't know if it's bugged, but it's real finicky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. For some reason it doesn't. You know, you could touch the wall, sorry, like that, and you get the damage boost when you land, but you're not getting it in the air. It's just really weird and finicky, but you know, you do get that damage boost. I don't know, but like the 30% on top of, you know, your passive heal boost, like maybe that brings you to 50%, and maybe it's not bugged and that's just how it's supposed to work. As you can see, as I'm on heal boost, I don't think it does it. No, it doesn't. But yeah, as long as you're on speed, you know, you're getting like kind of random bonus damage, and it's good for your big bullet, your BBL build. So, you know, it's an interesting build that I think you should try, see how you can make it work. But on top of like that ability, and you know, the 2 different ways you could spec it, either go all into weapon power so that you're doing a ton of spam damage, and this build is going to be pretty good against comps that don't have a ton of range, because you could be poking from a long distance. You know, if they have an Ash and they're just sniping you every time you peek out, then this build's not going to be very good. But if they're like a more short range comp, then spamming from a distance is really good. Next up, we have the Healbot / Healbot beat build. So do you not like having fun? Do you like wasting your potential and just healing? Do you have a soul and care about your teammates? Well, here's your dumb build. I'll be honest, it's actually kind of fun. I don't know why, but beating twice a fight makes me feel like I'm really good at the game, even though I'm just pressing a couple of buttons to heal and then pressing Q. But here is how you spec into this build. So first of all, after using Soundwave, heal allies by crossfade for 150% of crossfade healing. So basically anyone in your little radius gets the healing. Plus, as I showed before, if you're amping it up, it does more healing. And then on top of that, you know, you're just going to grab anything that helps you heal. This is a really good one. Amp it up duration plus crossfade range is increased. And then on top of that, you could get this one to beat more. But I like to do this 20% ult cost reduction because I think it's fun getting beat really fast. And you will get beat really fast if you're healing a bunch. And when I'm heal botting, I kind of focus on staying on heals. So this one isn't that good. I'm just trying to build beat really fast, but it could be really good if you do kind of switch between speed and heals a lot while you're doing this build. I don't think this one's very good. Sonic Amplifier damage heals all allies affected by crossfade equal to 20% of damage dealt. I'm just missing all my shots. I'm just focusing on healing and missing all my shots, so I don't think this one's very good. So I would get this one. I get beat drop, mixtape, or radio edit for this. I think speccing into ability power helps you heal more, or you could go cooldown reductions. But the most important ones are going to be this one. When allies leave your crossfade area, the effect lingers for 2 seconds. That one's really good. Amp it up duration's really good. And so that's going to be this one. plus 20% ability power, you know, and then catalytic crystal, 15% ability power, and ability damage and healing grants 20% more ult charge. So, you know, these perks are what I would say must-haves. They're going to help you heal a lot. You know, other than that, just go with the flow, whatever you think sounds good. And I might be wrong about these perks, but that's what I've been using. And, you know, it in the end, it means you have a really long amp it up. Like, look at this. Going, and now it's done. So you could also go into cooldown reduction to help you get that more often. But for the most part, I think that's how I would start out this build. And then kind of depending on what they're running, you could alter things or, you know, throw some other abilities and powers into it. But, you know, it's a really good build. And unfortunately, it's really good because healing sucks and is boring. But, you know what doesn't suck and what isn't boring? Build number 6. Beating on people's heads. When I first played Lucio in Stadium, I immediately created a build about landing on people's head with a beat, and because of this, I thought Lucio was the worst Stadium character because I couldn't do anything. But that doesn't mean this build sucks. I might just suck, and I am just not good at landing on people's heads. And when you spec completely into landing on people's heads, and I only like land on one person's head all game at most, you know, the build kind of seems like it sucks, but I was getting pretty good at it. There are some interesting things you could do with this build, and it is actually really fun once you get the hang of it. So the only necessary power here is this 20% ult cost reduction, and landing on an enemy with sound barrier deals up to 200 ability damage. So that one is huge. On top of that, I think it's pretty clear you should get this one. After using Amp It Up, triggers the sound barrier with 85% reduced overhealth. Okay, so 85% reduced overhealth, but for some reason not 85% less damage. It's kind of weird. I'll show you a little quirk, a couple little quirks with this. You know, the amount of overhealth it gives does not directly correspond with how much damage it's doing. It's kind of weird, but you know, I would get those two. We're also going to be using Soundwave as a movement ability, so you could get 2 charges of this. Not necessary, but definitely fun. And then on top of that, you could get whatever perks that help you heal more, amp it up duration, crossfade increased, because the more healing you're doing, the faster you're getting your ult, which, you know, you don't need your ult for this build. So let me show you this. I'm going to land on Tracer's head. That's how much damage it did. No ability power, just the default, you know, it's 1, 2, 3. I don't know how many bars. But yeah, we're going to kill her, and we're going to land on her head again and show you how much the beat drop does. It should kill her. Yeah, it does. But I don't remember if it kills Cassidy with no, oops, I forgot to grab it. With no ability power. Let's see. It doesn't kill Cassidy, but it does do however many bars of damage. Definitely not. So this one is definitely not 85%. Maybe it is 85% less damage. No, definitely not, because that would be pretty low damage. So, and then here's the other thing. I was saying it doesn't directly correspond with the like overhealth, but if we go to ability, sound barrier effectiveness is increased by 25% for every 1 second. Sound barrier is channeled up to 50%. So you would think, oh, I get to do 50% more damage, but I don't think that's the case. So in theory, you know, we're taking Roadhog now. We're going to land on his head. It does that much damage. Okay, so it gets the middle of the H. Okay, now we're going to do it again, but we're going to get up high and boop ourselves up higher and land on his head. For some reason, this is difficult. But we do that, and it got just a little bit farther. It doesn't seem like 50% more damage, but maybe I wasn't in the air long enough, but you know, it does help you get more damage, plus it gives ability power. So I would get this regardless, even if it isn't as effective as I would like it to be. I'll show you once we spec into ability power, we are going to be doing more damage. So yeah, we go like that. Let me get the radio edit perk, so when I amp, it does more damage. But first, you know, I'll show you the beat. Still can't one-shot him, which kind of sucks, but you're going to be able to one-shot squishies at least. And then this is how much damage a amp it up will do once you spec into ability power. Almost as much as a normal beat would do. Or sorry, a beat with 20% extra ability power. So, you know, it does scale pretty well. You could one-shot squishies with it, and it is pretty nice and it's fun, and you get a lot of them because you get it every time you amp, which is 12 seconds. So, you know, you get to do a bunch of attempts at this. I would definitely 100% invest into the perk that lets you boop yourself, because going higher like that, oh my god, it's so nice. You get like a lot more control and could land on people. I don't know what's better for this one, third person or first person, but you know, I do know this is a really fun build and you should try it regardless of if it's good or not. Next up is build number 7. What if you could go murder mode on Reddit, Lucio, but flip the switch to easy mode and aim free? Well, you can. You just need to boop the bad guys into walls and then boop them into the same wall again. And it's really fun and it's really strong. So let me show you this build. So the one required perk is going to be 30% increased knockback and deals 40 ability damage if the target hits a wall. And then on top of that, a no-brainer is you want a second charge of sound wave. So just those two with no ability power. Let me show you this. We're going to boop them into a wall twice. Super easy. Like, you know, even if you're hitting all headshots, it's like it does the same amount of damage. And you don't have to hit any headshots. And then once you invest into ability power, we'll do that real quick. Blah, 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 blah. I'll just grab a bunch of random ones. Oops. Except for that last one. Just kidding. That one was fine. But now, look at how much damage that does. Oh, that's crazy. And that's just one boop. You boop them twice, they're toast. So this build, super fun. It's Reddit Lucio on easy mode, except you might die as you go in. So you could definitely spec into survival to a certain extent. I think one of the ones I picked actually was good for survival. This one, 50% armor. And plus when you use an ability, restore 50 armor or shield over 2 seconds. I think that one's really good because it also gives you 15% ability power. So in terms of a damage build, I think this one might be the best. It's definitely the easiest. So the first build I talked about was the freight train build. That one is definitely a really good Reddit Lucio build. You know, that's going to lead us into build number 8. Build number 8 is the builds that you're going to make by yourself without the assist of some Overwatch bean. You know, what's the perfect Reddit Lucio build going to be? What's your booping off the map build going to be? How about a speed build? How about an attack speed build? I don't know, could go pretty crazy. And with these builds, I am kind of curious what you guys come up with and what you've already come up with that I didn't include here. I think I covered a lot. I think I've played a lot of other heroes. I haven't played them all yet. No, I think I have played them all. In terms of maybe just because I'm a Lucio main and I'm trying to get creative with these powers and stuff, I feel like you could make a lot of different builds with Lucio compared to, you know, with Cassidy. It's like you could do a right click build or a left click build. You know, or, you know, I feel like there's not as many. Maybe there's like 4 or 5 that you could do with Cassidy. You could do attack speed, but you could also do attack speed with Lucio. So that brings us up to 9 or 10 if you include the speed build. But, you know, moral of the story, there's a lot of builds to do. There's a lot of other builds to try. I think you should try some of the ones I mentioned in this list. You know, you don't have to build your own builds yet. You know, try these out, see how you like them, tweak them as you like. One of the things I forgot to say, you know, you could get this ricochet one for, you know, the spam damage build. I think that's good. Plus you're also doing more weapon damage. But, you know, overall, I think moral of the story is that you should just like and subscribe. You should subscribe. You don't even gotta like. I want 1,000 subscribers before my birthday in January. So, you know, make it happen, Reddit. Make it happen, Reddit Lucios. But on that note, the final note I got here is in the next like freaking 10 months, I'm going to be making an Overwatch reality TV show. Join the Discord. I don't know when it's going to be made, but, you know, also just join it and have fun. And you could also be in other videos. If you want to see any of these builds more in depth and specifically, I guess, you could just let me know which one or just tune into the stream. Okay. I'm telling you guys too many things. And I'm sorry about that. How about this? Ignore everything I said and just love each other and be nice to each other and tell your parents you love them. And, you know, if you have a crush on someone, you know, why not tell them? You know what I mean? Maybe they love you back. Maybe they hate you, but it's best to know. When you're invest into ETFs. I think they're good. You could get VOO and SCHD, you know, do like a 60-40 portfolio. Always drink water, you know, try to eat healthy. Vegetables are really good for you. Before you go to the bar, always take a couple of shots because alcohol is expensive at the bar. So you want to save money and don't litter. Don't litter. That's so